Hello, everyone. My name is Yvonne. I'm from JK Lifestyles with Yvonne. Today, we're meeting with Mary Crocker Cook. And I really wanted to talk to her because she's very attuned to women issues. And because of some of the things that she has gone through in the past, and she's overcome them and come out the other side, I feel it would be helpful to me and to anyone else that is lucky enough to hear this. So, how are you today, Mary?
I am doing well, Yvonne, and thank you for chatting with me today. I'm excited to talk to you about my book and my own experiences.
I'm glad that you're here. Tell me a little bit about your book, the book that you wrote.
Well, I recently came out with my little book. It's about 80 pages. It's called Bad Taste: Self Care and Financial Planning When You Have Bad Taste in Men. And
Mhm.
I'm a therapist. I've been doing this since 1988. And my specialty is working with addiction in families as well as attachment theory. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I has been on my heart is the fact that a lot of us are in, you know, less less effective relationships, but we're
Mhm.
not leaving. I wanted to
Mhm.
write a little book for women who are not in good relationships, need to take care of themselves, but they're not leaving right away because there's a lot of reasons women stay. And so I wanted to create this little book for stressed women who are
Mhm.
trying to negotiate the fact that they love, difficult men.
Mhm. What are the type of things that a woman will come into contact with when she's in one of these type of relationships?
Well, one of the things when the way I've structured it is there's different types of men we connect with, men that um, are addicted and are not going to stop using, men who prefer a criminal lifestyle, men who don't like to work. And so one of the things that comes up is trying to mitigate the financial and personal damage of these relationships so that women can take care of herself, take care of her kids at the same time as, again, being in situations that she is not ready to end. I've written a lot of books about, changing and shifting your attachment and connections with men and other people. But there are times when that is not doable right now. And so, what do you do? What do I do if the father of my kids is a career criminal? How do I take care of myself financially? Because I need to do that.
Mhm.
It's not as simple as just, I'll leave. Well,
Mhm.
maybe that's hard. Maybe you love them. Maybe you don't have anywhere to go. I know there's a lot of reasons. So
Mhm.
it's really about that. It's like, okay, it's a very practical book. Like how much it. Let's say I am married to a career criminal who's not going to stop. Well, how much is it? How does bail work? And how much does it cost? What do you need to? What is civil forfeiture? I mean, things that are like, how do you take care of you
Mhm.
given the situation? Does that make sense?
Yes, I was wondering, um, when a woman or a man, you meet someone and you're interested in them, do they show some kind of sign to let them know what they're about? I mean, how are you
Well,
supposed to decipher?
how do you know? Yeah, that's a really good question, Yvonne. Okay, so it depends. My experience is people will tell you who they are fairly quickly. Okay,
Tell
unless
you
they're
or show
actually
you? Tell you or
both.
show you?
They will
Okay.
both tell, and I'll give you an example. Okay, so I recently went to a hockey game with a guy I don't know very well. Nice guy. I met him professionally. Know nothing, don't really know the dude. Okay, so we're in a car and he's talking, and I could feel something was a little, I don't know, off, but I wasn't sure. Sure enough, as we're talking, he says to me the sentence, I'm highly social so that I don't have to really connect with people. And then we keep talking about other stuff.
I
Okay.
understand
Now,
that.
yeah. So I said, oh, well, because he asked me about, how, my socializing. And anyway, it was in context, but it was like, oh, that's an interesting thing to tell me. Right.
Mm.
So then the rest of the time, when I felt like I couldn't really, like something was a little off, I didn't think it was me. I was able to go, oh, okay, this is kind of how this guy rolls. Right.
Mm.
When I was younger, I would have paid attention to maybe the two times during the evening that we did connect. And I
Okay.
would think, oh, see,
Hmm.
instead I heard him, and then I watched how I felt and what he did, and it matched, so that the things that didn't match were the two times he connected. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
So
So
people, if you listen, or they'll say things to you like, you know what, I know I'm a total asshole. Now, what a lot of women think is, oh, poor baby, he's got bad self-esteem. No, he doesn't. He's telling you. Or when he tells you, yeah, I've never been good with money. Listen to him. We have a tendency to not pay attention, right? Or, yeah, work never seems to work out for me. I can't find, management that really understands the way I work. Okay. Because a lot of us, we want the connection so much
Mhm.
that we don't hear them. Okay. And then when we see the behavior, we keep thinking it's got something to do with us,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
And
Mhm.
the thing about a lot of us, we have trouble with relationships and connecting is we're not quitters, for God's sake. I mean, we work hard, right? So
Yes.
it's the women coming into therapy trying to make their relationship work. Like, that's interesting. Where's the other half of the relationship? Yeah. So this is the kind of thing that my job in my mind is to help people see what it is, and then you can make a decision about what, if anything, you'd like to do. But to be honest with yourself about, what's happening. Does that make sense?
Yes. Why isn't the guy coming with the woman to therapy? Does he feel he doesn't need it? Does he feel it's her problem? Or does he feel like I have a problem, but I don't care?
I think a lot of times it doesn't even occur to the woman to bring him. Like, we have so much responsibility ourselves. Like, we actually think we're supposed to make the relationship work. So
Mm-hmm.
if there's a problem, it must be me.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, many times I've said to women, well, what about inviting your partner? And they'll be like, well, why? I'll say, well, sweetheart, because you're in a relationship. Now, sometimes it's also true the person doesn't think it's them or isn't willing, okay? But that's a different animal than the fact that it doesn't even occur to us. Like, because the relationships are responsibility.
When women finally admit to themselves, or men, um, they look at the relationship realistically and they realize it's a problem. The problem is either with the other person, you don't want the same things. How does a woman reach a point where she understands that? Is that experience?
Part of really a lot of it is seeing patterns. Again, the real pattern is, why do I keep choosing partners like this? At the end of the day, it's not even the other person, in the sense that if I look at my relationship history, I can begin to see patterns that I do have the power to control. Okay. Because the
Mhm.
truth is, if my partner is a career criminal, or has will not treat their mental illness, or hates to work, that I'm not going to change that. So I need to look at, okay, what is it about my history, particularly childhood history, that would lend me to choose to enter relationships where somebody's not available? Because that's the pattern. The lack of availability changes clothes, okay? Sometimes it's they're married, sometimes they live in Spain, sometimes, they're criminals, whatever. I keep what's the part I'm in control of, and how do I address that? I think is the heart of it, really. That's why the book isn't really as much about them as it is, okay, what's going on here about me not choosing people who actually can be there for me. So that's what I can change. Now, that may mean I
What
wind up changing partners. I mean, it
what
might.
happened? What happened to a person to make them choose a bad partner over and over and over again, someone who's not available?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of us have early experiences trying to be seen and heard accurately by our caregivers. Okay. And for whatever reason, our parents weren't available. They might be physically available, but they weren't available emotionally. They, because they had their own, challenges. We didn't learn how to be with somebody who hears and that can exchange with us, can exchange, in a kind of, I hear you, you hear me, we work collaboratively. We didn't grow up with that. We don't even know what that looks like. Okay.
Mhm.
So all of our skills are around either I don't really even want to get in a relationship, or I'm going to get in a relationship and then be really anxious and work all the time on trying to make it work, even though the other person can't. I
Mhm.
mean, a lot of times it's not even that they won't, they can't. They've got their own stuff. And so it goes, the healing that ultimately is going to happen is, how I learn my own patterns and the way I get in my own way in terms of forming the kind of relationships I think I want. This, that's kind of what this is about.
If we're in a bad relationship, does that affect us physically?
Oh, you bet. So what we know is that everything that we feel and think is directly connected to our immune system. So what I see is this level of internal distress absolutely translates particularly or potentially into medical issues like gastrointestinal stuff, high blood pressure, um, arthritis. Yeah, our bodies, uh, because our bodies, when our attachments are not going well, it's like our body's in fight or flight all the time. Okay. And it's like our foot's stuck on the accelerator in the car and it never lifts off. Right. If you do that in your car parts will start flying. Okay. So if I stay at that level of, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, my body's is going to start to break down. And so you see a lot of stress related disorders when people are at this level of anxiety about their relationships and distress. In fact, sometimes that's what brings them into therapy, actually, is they're referred by their doctor because chronic migraines or things that are like uh, they have fibromyalgia and then they have anxiety and depression. The doctor feels like is somehow connected, and it is. It is. So it's important. So when we're talking about trying to manage this, we're talking about a holistic, impact. It's not just the way my feelings in my body, because a lot of us are really super competent, and on the outside of us, we look just fine,
Mhm.
just fine. If you looked on the inside, it would be like one of those ducks where their feet are under the water paddling really, really, really fast. But on the top of the water, we look fine.
I think a lot of people will think it's a physical ailment.
I
They
know.
they won't feel it's connected to their experiences or their relationship or connection with someone else. They just think, oh, I don't feel well. Oh, my head hurts, my back hurts. Oh,
You're
I
so
feel
right.
anxious about something.
You're so right. Yeah. And in fact, in some cultures, right, it's not okay to talk about having mental health. I saw this wonderful video. This woman, she was a publicist, and for famous people. And she was talking about she'd written a book about Black depression for women, and talked about in her own culture, African American women, there's so much reliance on maternal strength, women's strength, right? They don't have time to be depressed. So they
No.
gain 40 pounds, right? Or they can't get out of bed, right?
Mhm.
Because they need to take care of everybody, take care of everything. And so something like, well, why don't you talk to the therapist? What? I don't have time for that. And so it was interesting. She had written a book about her own experience, that it got so bad for her that she couldn't do her job anymore, and so she was forced to get help. And then she thought, okay, and then she interviewed this woman who was a African American minister, and the minister also had a degree in therapy, and so would try to get her congregants to address the emotional stuff, right? That you can't necessarily pray it away. Let's talk about it. So yeah, there's also cultural influences, right? Where we say, well, yeah, it's I don't need to talk to somebody. I have time.
I think African American women, so you have your family to think of, you have your children to think of, you
That's
have
right.
to, and a lot of times you're not a housewife, so you have a job to,
Yep.
and that all has to balance the needs of your family,
Yep.
working,
Yeah.
and that's a luxury to sit there and go to therapy. Plus, it's an expense.
I
so,
know.
that's
I
why.
hear you.
So,
I hear you. And at the same time, when I think about the African American women, I have several women I'm seeing in my practice. And yes, it is an expense and it is time. At the same time, so are medical issues. So are doctor's visits. So is the time off because now you need surgery because you have colitis. Okay. So you have to weigh it over time. It's kind of like, yeah, can I is talking to somebody once a week or every other week, right?
mhm,
Is that actually in the end of the day saving time and money? Because your body isn't going to let you off the hook. You can put it off, but at some point your body is going to say, I'm done. And in my thinking is, if you can, it's almost like a pressure relief valve. If you can, like, let some of this, talk about this, stabilize this, you don't have to maybe have as dramatic impact as ignoring it will
mhm,
sometimes lead to. Does that make sense?
absolutely. Um, how many women actually change after they
Mm-hmm.
realize what, what that they are being disturbed over a
Yeah.
situation, over a person, and what makes them finally change? Or do they stay there? Or do they find some way to cope to stay
Mm-hmm.
there?
So one of the things, of course, I'm a therapist, so it's my bias that they get better, right? I mean, I'd be a shitty therapist if I said to you, never. Okay. Of course they get better, okay? But that doesn't necessarily mean the relationship ends. So I look at it as, how do I heal? Just like living with an addict. You can get into your own healing process even if they never get sober. Okay? I
Mhm.
can get into my own healing process even if the man I love refuses to ever work. Okay. What can I do? And I do put in here support groups like Al-Anon or NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness, or other places where we can go for support, because it helps our reality testing to talk to other people who get it, right? So if I need to be heard, and if my partner can't hear me or can't recognize what's happening, talking to somebody that actually sees me,
Mhm.
right? Who gets me, heals our heart. And people do begin to feel more confidence, and they feel like they can trust themselves a little more. They feel like they can build a life that sustains them versus constantly treading water. Um, and ultimately, they may or may not leave. They may decide, yeah, I'm done. I need to go. Okay. It depends. So in my mind, you don't have to wait for that. I mean, you can get better. You can at least for yourself feel stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Regardless of, I have people that, it's not their partner that's hard for them, but they have let's say a developmentally disabled adult child who is really hard to deal with, isn't going anywhere. Okay, they're going to be responsible for it. Okay, it's like, okay, how do you manage again a person who won't change? You love them,
Mm-hmm.
but they're taking a toll on you, right? Who
Mm-hmm.
can you have talk to for support? That kind of thing. So um, I think part of it is taking our focus. I love that. What is it? Put your oxygen mask on you first, right? And then you put it on the baby. Um, Treating ourselves like we matter goes a long way to sustaining us. Even in a job, let's say I have a job or career that I'm not happy in, but I also have to, I've got 3 kids and I need to pay for college or whatever. Okay. You can't just say, well, I'm going to start a catering business today. That's not a thing. Okay. I need to retire at 20 or whatever, get my pension, and then I'll start a catering business. So what do you do in the middle? So part of this is about, yeah, I need to be able to sustain me.
Mm-hmm.
And in particular, I'm focused here on relationships, but there are so many situations. Taking
Mm-hmm.
care of a parent, right? Who,
Mm-hmm.
who is declining and needy. I have women I'm working with right now that are trying to make decisions for their moms that have, are moving into dementia and hard to deal with because they're not cooperative and hard and a mess, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
all of them and then forgetting commitments. And it's just hard. It's like, okay, okay. So how do we take care of you? Because it isn't magic where you just get to get rid of whatever's hard. It just doesn't go like that.
Mm-hmm. And these groups can help you either find a way to have peace and exist in your present situation or build you up and give you the strength, gradually, the strength that you need to maybe leave, maybe cut
Yeah,
whatever that situation is, whether it's a job, whether it's a person, whether it's a
yeah,
friend, whatever,
yeah,
whatever
absolutely.
your energy. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Because again, at the end of the day, we do have like we only live so long, right? So if you think of time as money, time is finite, right, Yvonne? So what I want to do with the time I've got and how do I make the best of what I have, and even in relationships, like it's okay, this is the father of my children, one way or another. I got to somehow, even if it's as a co parent, I got to figure out how to do this because they're not going to magically disappear, right? So um, if you can figure out again, some of these things are out of your control, like a parent with dementia or a child with developmental disability. Other things are in your control, like I keep marrying alcoholics. Okay, you can have some control over that, right? I keep marrying men who have mental illness and will not treat it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a choice you're making that you have a little more control over in terms of change, right? What do you want to do differently, if anything?
Do you think sometimes people enter these relationships thinking that they can change the dynamic, they can really make a difference in that the person's life and therefore in their own lives to have a happy ending? Do you
Oh,
think?
absolutely, Yvonne. I mean, I talk to women all the time about, okay, we're not going to do a restoration project. Okay, we're not, you need to take him as is. Okay,
Mhm.
there's going to be no restoration where you're going to be like doing the upgrade. Okay, you need to, if he upgrades, great.
Mhm.
Okay, but you can't go into it thinking he's a project. And if you just pay his IRS bill and you help him with his financial aid and you you get him some dental work and a new bridge and I mean I've seen women do all of this, right? I buy him transportation and get him a motorcycle. Oh, okay. It does not have, there's no happy ending to that, okay? Because if he can't do those things for himself, that's a concern. He's not an equal. What we want is an equal, right? Somebody who is participating equally.
Mhm.
And then women will complain once they do that. I feel like I have a third child. Because you do. Because that's what you chose. You chose somebody that you were going to take care of until they could take care of themselves. That's called parenting. Okay. That's not cool for a grown man. Okay.
I think I think after a while you get tired of it.
Oh, you bet you do.
I think you get tired of it, and it's just too much work, and it's too
You bet.
draining, and then I think if you have that kind of responsibility, after a while you start looking older, and they're still looking young because
Oh,
all the responsibility is on you.
you bet you. Yeah, they look fine. Why wouldn't they be? Right? I know. And what you know what ages us and messes with us medically is resentment. It kills us, right? The resentment just kills us. So that's part of it, which is making a decision to stay or go in a relationship, partly based on what kind of resentment am I carrying and how's it affecting me, right? And, you know, again, if it's a resentment in a relationship, I can't, it just is what it is, like my, mom with dementia. Okay, I can get support. I can use my church. I can go to Ellen. I can get support. Sometimes it's like, well, maybe I need to change the relationship then because it's killing me, right?
Like,
Strong
what
women tend to think we should do something because we can. We don't give ourselves the permission to say, okay, I probably could keep taking care of Bobo, but I don't want to.
that's one of the questions that I was going to ask about
Mm,
patterns. And when you
mm,
do what you were just saying, you're changing the pattern. You're not going along with the same program
that's
that
right.
got you to the point where you are now, frustrated.
No, yeah, yeah. Well, part of it's treating yourself like you matter. I matter too, right? Yes, my kids matter and my parents matter and Bobo matters. I matter too. And women struggle with the word selfish all the time. I don't want to
Oh,
be selfish.
what are the signs that your pattern, how you do things, are it has changed?
Oh, it
What?
changed?
Mhm. Yeah. What
Yeah.
type? What pattern? How do you know that?
Okay.
Mhm,
Okay. Well, in some ways, kind of like what I said at the beginning about the guy I went to hockey with,
mhm,
I see and hear things faster.
mhm,
Like I identify what's really happening based on the way I feel. Like, in other words, as I'm sitting there in the car, I can feel I'm uncomfortable and I'm paying attention to that. Where
mhm.
before I would have focused on, do they like me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm,
So it's like, no, no, no. What's going on with me? And so I'm listening to me because we're so smart if we would listen to ourselves. So that's part of it.
mhm,
You also get better at seeing it outside of you too. Like you just start to see and hear things in a different way. Like,
mhm,
oh, I see that. I see the train coming,
mhm,
right? I can
mhm.
see what's happening, what they mean by that. Women pay a lot of money in therapy to play. What does he mean by that? Okay.
I've done that myself too.
Oh, me too.
What do they mean? And 9 times out of 10, depending on how much I like them, it depends on how much I excuse it. Oh, they didn't mean
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
Oh,
what
you know
they
we do
meant
that.
was, what they meant was, no, they meant
I
what
have
they
done.
said.
You are so right. Oh my God, yes, I've done that. So we all do it. It's like because we want the connection so badly that we will ignore what our mind and our gut is telling us. And we're
Mhm,
like, yeah, but and this is the other thing. When you're competent in other areas, you're good at work, you're good at managing your family, you're good at, you're the, having a position at the church, you think to yourself, I could do this, right? So some of this is around the humility of, you know what, it is quite possible I'm very good at other things, but I'm not going to be able to make this work with him. Okay? It doesn't mean something's wrong with me. It means maybe something's right with me.
How do you know that you're in a healthy relationship?
Oh, well, partly because you feel like they see and hear you accurately. You feel you like yourself.
Mhm.
You have energy.
Mhm.
You are able to pay attention and take care of yourself without having to like abandon you all the time because Bobo's so needy. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you have energy, you have capacity,
Mhm.
you're able to laugh, you're able to enjoy the time together. You're actually like you.
Mhm.
Because part of the problem with some of these relationships, as we try to make them work, is it changes us. We don't like us either. We're nagging, right? We're repeating ourselves.
Mhm.
We're having tantrums,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
We hear the sarcasm come out of us. We're not the best version of us either. Okay. And so, in what I notice in positive relationships is, both people have the ability to be the better version of them most of the time. I had a teacher say in graduate school, shoot, 80% of the time, if you're happy, it's working. Okay? Not
Yeah.
100. You're with another human. Okay?
Mhm.
But 80 or more, you're okay.
Mhm.
And I've had that in my head all these years, and that's not a bad measure, right? That when you look at, and again, not the overall, right? Overall, it's probably 50-50. Sometimes it's not because somebody's ill, somebody's going through a transition at work, somebody, you know what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
over time, people are both anteing up pretty much your partners,
Mhm.
right?
Well, today we were joined by Mary Crocker Cook. Thank you so much for coming. Tell us the name of your book again.
You can find my book. It's called on Amazon. It's called Bad Taste: Self Care and Financial Planning When You Have Bad Taste in Men. And it's I know but it's the truth. I certainly have quite a history of poor choices. And so I get it. I do. It's not judgmental. It's only 80 pages because it's very practical. And it's written for you to be able to take care of yourself. And when you're ready to change, or if a lot of us, while we're in the process of changing, we still don't pick so well, even though
Mhm.
we're upgrading. I always tell women, it's like a car, you want to get the upgrade, but we're still not there yet. So, okay, now we got the seat belts and the electrical windows. All right,
Mhm.
but we can still do a little better. Okay,
Mhm.
you can take care of yourself in the meantime. So,
Mhm. Well,
thank you for having me.
thank you for coming on. And we're going to talk again. So,
Okay, all
okay.
righty.
Goodbye, everyone.
Okay.